3 ID badges were found that morning in a dumpster behind the processing hall at a poultry plant. Each one was neatly wrapped in plastic food wrap, like someone wasn't trying to throw them away, someone was trying not to leave a fingerprint. Their owners were gone. It happened at 10:00 p.m. on November 13, 1988, in a small town called Raven Creek, Indiana, where the Sunrise Poultry plant was the biggest employer, the loudest smell in the air, and the birthplace of every rumor that ever walked through town. The night shift was run by Victor Kramer, 52, a rigid manager. The kind of man who treated problems like paperwork. If you don't look at it, it isn't real. On the kill line was Jake Sutter, 24. 3 months on the job, and already he'd learned the plant's simplest rule: if a machine can take your hand, one day it will try. Jake had warned Kramer the day before. "Victor, that conveyor's going to kill someone. Yesterday it almost ripped my wrist." Kramer didn't even look up. "It's been running 30 years. It'll run 30 more. Get back to work." That same evening, Ethan Cross, 31, walked into the hall. Packaging operator. Nervy. Tense. Always carrying a notebook like he was logging numbers or building a case. "Jake," Ethan said, low. "I figured something out. We're short. Badly short." "Everyone knows there's shrink," Jake muttered. "No. I counted it. This isn't seems like. This is thousands of pounds a month. I've got dates, invoices, truck numbers. You know what's more dangerous than theft? The person who says, 'I have proof.' Because proof isn't paper. Proof is a sentence. It just hasn't been signed yet." While they talked, Ryan Miller, 19, a trainee loader, stepped onto the floor. A good kid type. On that line, he looked out of place, like someone who turned down the wrong hallway and didn't want to admit it. Everyone knew the one thing that mattered: Ryan was the plant director's nephew. The director was Frank Miller, a man who lived above the town, but controlled what the town breathed. Security at Sunrise wasn't security. It was a checkbox. One older gate guard, half awake most nights, guarding his own nap. And then, around 10:30 p.m., a white company sedan rolled up to the gate. A woman in a regulatory uniform stepped out. She handed over documents, flashed credentials. "Ashley Warren, Inspector." The guard barely stood. He glanced at the paper, glanced at her face, and waved her through. "Go ahead." Night shift managers and admin. Kramer greeted her like she'd brought him an insult, not an inspection. "We weren't expecting you." "That's the point," she said. "Show me the floor." She walked the line, asked questions, wrote notes. Too many notes. Too precise. She pointed to an oil slick near the conveyor. "That normal?" "Old equipment," Kramer snapped. Then she asked to see the cold rooms. Inside the refrigerated corridor, she paused, breathed in, and said quietly, "Strange smell." "What is that?" "Sanitizer," Kramer answered fast. "New chemical." Back in the office, she went through paperwork for over an hour. She didn't look like someone being thorough. She looked like someone hunting one specific thing. "Waste write-off," she said, tapping a page. "Thousands of pounds. Who signed off?" "Quality control," Kramer said. "Name?" "Ethan Cross." The inspector's eyes narrowed. "How convenient. The same employee who signed the write-offs now works packaging." "I don't like convenient coincidences." At 2:00 a.m., she left. And before she walked out, she said one sentence that changes the temperature of a room: "I'll be back." Usually, after those words, one of two things happens: the person returns, or someone makes sure you don't live long enough to meet them. Right after she drove away, Kramer gathered the crew and switched to threats. "Jake. One more complaint and you're out. Ethan. Stop your little counting project. Ryan. Stay away from inspectors." Ryan tried to speak. "I'm not telling anyone anything." Kramer stared at him, cold. "Not yet. Around 3:30 a.m., Ethan showed Jake his notebook. More shipments going out than coming in. Over and over, missing product. They'll pin it on us, Ethan whispered. We should go to the police. Jake shook his head. They'll say you stole it and wrote this down as cover. Ryan sat nearby, silent, listening. And the longer he listened, the clearer it got. If theft came out, the name Miller would take the first hit. His uncle. His future. His way out. At 4:00 a.m., the conveyor finally died. A metal shriek, a violent jerk, and then silence. The kind of silence where you can hear fear growing inside people. Kramer cursed. All three of you. Go home. You're useless right now. They changed clothes. Ethan slipped the notebook into his jacket. He didn't want to leave evidence of himself inside a building where numbers disappeared. At the gate, the guard looked surprised. Early. Conveyors down, Jake said. And then the guard added a line that would later become its own sentence in the official report: leave your badges. New policy, re-registration. They handed them over. They stepped outside the fence and realized the yard lights were off. Cost saving. In America, you can cut costs on anything. But turning off the lights where people walk into the dark is a special kind of stupidity. The first bus wasn't until 6. And then a white van appeared on the road. You heading downtown? Ethan called. The driver nodded and gestured toward the cargo area. Inside, it smelled wrong. Sweet. Sterile. Like a hospital hallway pretending it's normal. The door shut from the outside. And almost immediately, they heard a hiss. What is that? Ethan jerked back. Jake slammed at the door. Locked. The smell got stronger. Ryan hit the small window between the cargo and the cab and caught a reflection of the driver's face. Something in his brain tripped. Because for half a second, it looked like the driver was someone who had been near them moments ago. Within seconds, all three collapsed into darkness. The morning of November 14, the day shift realized the night crew never showed. In the locker room, their belongings were still there. Wallets. Keys. Paperwork. Two men left everything. The third looked like he planned to be right back. And never came back at all. Then a cleaner found their badges in the dumpster. Wrapped in plastic wrap. 3 neat little bundles, like 3 tiny funeral notes with no words. Police were called. The county sent Detective Mark Lewis. Logbook entry, he asked. Yes. For 15, Sutter, Cross, Miller left the premises. And an inspector came last night? Lewis asked. Yes, Kramer said. Young. Strict. Ashley Warren. Lewis called the regulatory office. Do you have an inspector named Ashley Warren? The answer was calm. Yes, but she's in her 50s. And last night she was at a meeting in the state capitol. Lewis hung up slowly. Then that badge was fake. That's the moment a case stops being 3 missing workers and becomes something else. Someone took them. That same day, the morgue called. Unknown male. Found with a notebook. Notes about shortages at Sunrise Poultry. Lewis drove in. And by the mark on the man's arm, he knew. It was Ethan Cross. Cause of death, poisoning. The substance resembled isoflurane, a veterinary anesthetic. But the strangest part wasn't the chemical. Someone had tried roughly, quickly, to alter Ethan's appearance, as if they wanted him to look like someone else in the dark. Anyone. No one. A few hours later, they found Jake Sutter inside an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. Same cause. Same chemical. Only this time, nobody bothered with a disguise. Like one body was needed for a trick, and the other was just a cleanup. That left one, Ryan Miller. That evening, his sister called. Hannah Miller, a lab tech from a nearby meat facility. Ryan's here, she said. He's in shock. He says someone tried to kill them. Police rushed over. But Ryan was already gone. On the table, a note, "Don't look for me. They killed two. They'll kill me too." Then another call. Ryan, from a payphone at the bus station. "I have to disappear," he said. "If I tell you who it is, they'll kill you too." "Who?" Lewis asked. "The one who wasn't supposed to be." And the line went dead. The next day, forensics found microfibers on the plastic wrap used on the badges, particles from high-grade lab gloves, the kind used when handling harsh chemicals. In town, there were only 12 people who used that level of protective gear. One of them was Hannah Miller. And another was a woman named Megan Carter. Then a detail surfaced that tightened Detective Lewis's jaw. Megan Carter's family history connected back to Ethan Cross. Lewis went to Megan's address. Only a teenager was home. Megan was at work. At work, nobody could find her. Family emergency. When Lewis called, her voice sounded like she'd been crying. Then the plant called. "Someone's been in an old cold room. Fresh traces. And the smell, like a hospital." Inside, investigators found stains and signs that bodies had been stored there. Wheel marks from a cart led to the rear exit. From there, toward an abandoned pig barn outside town. And that's where they found Ryan. Alive. Unconscious. Next to him was a note in a woman's handwriting. "I didn't want this. I wanted to save one person, and I killed another." While detectives read it, Hannah Miller stepped out from behind a divider. A canister in her hands. "Step away from my brother," she said calmly. And this is where you understand something people learn too late: the most dangerous person in a true crime story isn't the one who screams. It's the one who speaks like this as a safety briefing. Hannah confessed, carefully. She didn't force. She guided. She suggested. She set the conditions. She knew where to look. What to say. What to leave open. What to accidentally place in someone's path. Sometimes, to make a person do something terrible, you don't have to push them. You just give them the right thought at the right moment. Megan Carter returned on her own, and she said, "I recorded conversations. I was scared. I wanted insurance." On the tape was Hannah's voice. Calm. Almost gentle. Not kill. Just neutralize. Put them under. Talk to them. Everything's under control. Control. It's the favorite word of people who later say, "I'm not guilty. I just helped events happen." The case widened. Old deaths resurfaced. Too clean. Too convenient. Lewis realized it wasn't a one-time act. It was a style. A pattern. Other people's hands were the tool. Other people's guilt was the armor. In the end, Hannah took a plea deal and said the sentence Lewis never forgot: "I never killed with my own hands. I just created the conditions." She was convicted. Megan was deemed mentally unstable at the time and sent for treatment. Ryan left town and changed his last name. The plant was demolished. A daycare was built on the site. And sometimes, workers find old plastic cards in the soil, like the badges that once opened those doors. No names. No photos. Like time erased everything, except the plastic. Years later, Detective Mark Lewis would open the case file and think, the scariest part wasn't the chemical. Or the van. Or the fake inspector. The scariest part was how easily a person can convince themselves they're just protecting family. And the last question is always the same. Not who did it. But, what would you do if the closest person in your life was the one on the line?